Hello and welcome, ladies and gents. I hope you can all hear us, see us, all of the rest. How we doing? Welcome back to Two and a Half Talent. It's been a hot minute, as it always is. But I mean, this is now it's now a standard. In all fairness, welcome back to Two and a Half Talent. We've got a lot to talk about. Plenty of topics on the docket for today, but we'll start with what we always start with. That's what have we been up to? Paladin, you want to kickstart us? Over the pond, what have we been up to?
I mean, it's been really slow recently, Like we haven't had too much going on in terms of like events and stuff like that. I've been casting the Bet Boom Dacha event with you guys, and that's been fun. We had a couple of qualifiers before that as well. I believe for Yawn Shipping,
Yes.
Atlanta's about to go underway, so yeah, those qualifiers were really fun. I think the level of CS2 is already shaping up to be pretty fun to watch. Like, it's just very scrappy, and it's not really like figured out yet, which is like just exciting for everybody compared to Go. And in all honesty, I've just been watching a lot of demos, trying to catch up, and try to get acclimated with all of this because eventually, it's gonna get to a point where we have to talk about this stuff on a bigger stage, and we gotta know what we're talking about, right? So, watching all these demos is super, super important.
Trav, hit me.
I've been a tennis enjoyer over the last week or so. I've been playing weekly. I've been playing weekly at this community thing, which is like free. And also I went to London to watch the Billie Jean King Cup, which is basically like a women's regional tournament, which is like it was Great Britain versus Sweden, and Great Britain won.
As a non-tennis enjoyer, isn't Billie Jean Michael Jackson?
No, that's the song. That's the
That's
song.
the song.
Yeah,
Billie
I know.
Jean. Yeah.
Right. So who's Billie Jean in this context?
Billie Jean King
Billie
is one
Jean
of the
King
greatest
is,
women's players of all time.
Yeah.
Was that who Michael Jackson was singing about?
No, unfortunately, I don't think so.
Damn.
I don't think so. No, I'm sorry.
That's ruined my afternoon. I thought there was it all loops back.
I can see the cogs turning. Yeah, you saw it and you were like, yeah, this is it. I know.
There are some cogs. I'm not sure if they're turning though.
Yeah, Michael Jackson had something going here. They even made tournaments, so fair play.
It was fun though. I've loved tennis since I was like 4. That's the first time I've ever watched tennis in person. So
fair enough.
Yeah,
I might be going to watch some tennis soon. I don't really know. I showed you what it was, Trav. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
But it looks.
It's like some.
It's kind of like what it is.
It's kind of like an exhibition. It's like a weird format type tennis tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently some. I don't know any of them. Apparently some good people are playing.
Yeah.
You recognize someone.
Gail Monfils.
Oh shit! Okay, cool. Yeah. Love that dude. These dudes are like fun people to watch.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm pretty sure it's like 8 minutes, like 8-minute tennis or some shit, but they're all pros.
Sure.
Like all pros, and they're always on court or something. And there's 8 of them. I don't really know how it works.
I'll send you the link. I looked at it the other day.
Yeah, it looks good. I don't know. Fuck it. But yeah, me. What have I been up to? We had Thunderpick, which we'll come on to. Not too long. We all worked.
You said it was slow, Paladin. I was like, what the hell is this guy saying slow for?
You're right.
We just had a pretty cool last month, to be honest.
Yeah, we had a Thunderpick World Championship, which was obviously very good fun. You really can't go wrong with Thunderpicks. It's always good to work that. And obviously, we were all kind of in some way involved in the quals as well, which is obviously also very good. And we were all kind of part of the main thing, which is good. What else have I had? We've been obviously doing Bet Boom Dacha, which has been good fun. It's basically been like once a day for the last few days and continues on into next week. Bar today. Today was the only day off, so hence why we're here doing the podcast. We've got a bit of energy because we've been savored a little bit, and then aside from that, bit of ECL. I think I've just done a couple of games of Asia, a couple of games of EU, and that's been about it. I'm pretty sure. But apart from that, but it's been okay.
Yeah.
It's been alright. We can't really complain. It's been I've moved house basically, so the setup's very bare and very scarce right now. It's all over the shop. I've got so much unpacking still to do, but I'm getting there. I'm kind of still figuring out what I'm going to do with my setup, but we are going to get there. And yeah, I spent all of today unloading some new kit. I got sent some stuff from AOC, so I've got a nice swanky new monitor right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I've been kind of setting all that up. But no, it's been alright. It's been alright. Let's get into the topics, and I think we're going to start things with probably the most apt thing to talk about right now, especially with CS2, is the best team in CS2, the best team in the world right now. There's no real like contenders. It is only one to the top. It's FaZe, looking unreal. They're on like a 15 game best of 3 win streak, 3 back-to-back tournaments, S tier tournaments with IM Sydney, the CS Asia Championships, and then of course Thunderpick as well, all kind of S tier tournaments, and FaZe have won them all. So lads, they're looking pretty good right now, especially considering all the conversation around that team and its longevity.
I think it's crazy in the fashion that they're doing it as well. I don't even think it's like Kerrigan calling the greatest T sides you ever seen, or it's like some unreal strategies that you've never heard of. It's just all of these players understand the minutia of CS2's mechanics so well. Like you can see Rops pushing the boundaries of what's possible to be as a rifler. I mean, you look at Rain; he's suddenly re-energized. Brokey's opping style is like perfect for this game, and you could see that even though he's a little bit feast or famine, it's still really, really impactful. And of course, Kerrigan's also fragging out as well. You've seen a couple clutches from him throughout all these tournaments. It just feels like, and of course Twist, like Twist's mechanics is like brilliant for this game. First bullet being as crisp as it is makes things so much easier. So it's like the mechanical abilities of all of these players just like their play styles fit the game so well, and they've just been putting in so much work of learning how to play this game that they're just bar none ahead of the entire pack right now. It doesn't feel like there's another team that's putting in a similar effort to them. And granted, I think in all of their heads they realize that we're running into probably the tail end of this lineup's lifespan, and we might as well just give it everything we have, get as many trophies as we can before we get out the door, and why not create it and break some records while we're at it? And you can definitely see within them that they're just still so hungry to prove themselves before they have one foot out the door.
Do you think it's the kind of epitome, Trav, of like what actually is a last dance? Like screw this like Brazilian nonsense of a last dance. This actually is kind of the kind of the true last swan song, right? Because if all the conversations are to be believed, with a merger happening with Complexity, or I guess is it
Game Square?
Game Square, right?
Yeah.
So that merger's happening, of course. There is going to be a conflict of interest naturally. The rumor had it. I don't know if this is rumor or confirmed, but like they're going to commit to the NA team. Fair enough. They've obviously been committed to those boys for a long time. But it means they're going to have to sell for parts the FaZe team. So sooner rather than later, this FaZe team will be ineligible to play tournaments anymore because of conflict of interest. Do you think this is kind of like the epitome of a last dance?
I don't know. I mean, the thing that makes me sad is that I don't see a world in which this entire 5, can be picked up by another organization. I just think it's a situation where they will be sort of moved on one by one. Like who knows? Like there could be some great opportunities for the likes of Rops to go to a team like G2, who of course benched JKS, for example, right? Like maybe the roles wouldn't necessarily match perfectly, but there are opportunities out there. There are slots out there because it's all just a mess at the moment. Everything still feels like a mess until this FaZe Complexity thing is sorted out and we understand what's going on with it. There are so many question marks, and with I think Twist being basically all but confirmed to join Liquid, if that hadn't been the talking point, I would say that then maybe they could have been bought out as a 5, or they could move to a new organization as a 5. But because Twist is such an important part of it, it's a shame that I feel like that is just not possible. And maybe whether it's a last dance or not, I don't know. I think it's just the epitome of a team that knows and understands each other so well, have been together for so long. Other teams haven't had that. They've been mixing and matching so much lately. The only one that I think has stayed together for as long, weirdly, is like MOUZ even. And even that hasn't been that long, right? So, yeah, I think it says a lot about FaZe. I think I'm very impressed with how they do and how they've continued to keep it going with the synergy they know they have.
For sure. I think... go on.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, no, I was gonna say that it's upsetting that we might not get to see more of this because
That's what I was gonna
we're
say.
heading into a point of roster moves that
Yeah.
so many different teams are in flux that the chemistry of a team like this could carry on for months on end. It could go into the major if in Copenhagen. It could even carry on to Shanghai for all we know because
Yeah.
all these teams that have to rebuild for so long that it's just so unfortunate that we just lose this roster to something that's completely out of their control and
Yeah.
something that is just way bigger than the org altogether.
I think as well for me, one of the things that like kind of worries me in a sense, but just like as a fan of Counter Strike, there's actually genuinely a strong world in which either all or some of these players are not present at the first major, and that worries me because if the merger, I'm assuming the merger goes through like early 2024. These things take a long time, but if it's already been kind of confirmed they're buying them, that'll end up being roughly about 6 months anyway. A merger should go through in about 6 months unless they got shit lawyers, so they should be fine. They got plenty enough money to have good lawyers. So it should go through probably early before, like essentially before the RMR starts. Yeah, there's actually a world in which if the players aren't sold beforehand already, or if the merge hasn't gone through, but then it's still a conflict of interest, then we either see none or some of these guys not play at the first major. Literally none of them deserve not to have that chance. Like you've got kind of Rops who, you know, Twist came out and said it, but I think most people would agree is probably the best player in the world right now. I don't really think there's any. I don't feel there's a debate right now. He just looks incredible. No one can touch Rops at the moment. But not to discredit Twist, who's also playing incredible. Like you said, Annie, he kind of feels like he's made for the game mechanically, at the very least. And then you've got Brokey, who's one of the few AWPers in the world who actually makes the game look easy AWPing. 9 out of 10 AWPers struggle. Brokey makes it look easy, which is massively important. Also, Brokey can hybrid as well, which makes him quite valuable. And then you've got Rain and Karrigan, who both massively experienced and still putting up decent numbers as well. I mean, Karrigan's playing better than we've seen him play for quite a while. They just look confident. They look happy. So it's a shame we might not see some or any of them play at the major.
Those impact frags that Karrigan had in Thunderpick, which we'll get onto, of course, in a little bit, were unbelievable in that final.
100%.
And I think that's what makes FaZe's run all the more impressive as well. Is the fact that they were doing it online and LAN. There's been criticism of FaZe in the past. Obviously, lots of people will consider online to be less important than LAN. It just plainly is. It's fair enough. But Thunderpick was a massive event with a massive prize pool. FaZe have not necessarily been amazing online in the past. They've had a few good results, but it's not like they've been winning every tournament. I think Twist actually tweeted after they won Thunderpick that was his first ever online event win.
Okay.
Right? Like, actually crazy that after, so many years they never won one. So, it just really says a lot about their form. Rops, I think it goes to show if you really put in the hours and put in the grind. We know how nerdy Rops is in a good way.
Yeah.
With CS2 and how many streams he does and how opinionated they are all on Twitter as well. They are in it. You can see it's not just their skill. Their hearts are in it, and that is what has made them so successful early doors.
Yeah,
It's so upsetting, like that there's so many other teams and pros, simple, but that just don't want to win or don't want to try just because the game is not ready or the game is not like
to their
completely at the same level. Yeah. And I mean, when you look back on history and you think about NIP, they played a Counter-Strike that was awful, that was not anywhere near the level of where Counter-Strike needed to have been. Now you could say the same thing about that roster, and now the way when we think about NIP, we think about the 87-0. Like they still had that record, they still had this crazy part of history, and we always refer back to it. And that's just because they put their heads down. They realized this is an opportunity to embrace the future and to kind of run with it. And FaZe have done that and then some. And it helps to have younger players like that are hungry to create history like that. Even after winning a major, winning a Grand Slam, you think that, okay, this is probably where we can put a stop to this and bookmark this chapter, but they just want to keep writing history. And I really admire that about them, that they have so much passion to even play a game that they're very vocal about is not good. But you can still see that even if they don't consider the game to be in its prime state, they still have put in so much time and so many hours to perfect even the imperfections that are there within this game, which is fantastic. It's just gonna push the envelope for the game further, and I'm thankful that we have at least one team that's just all in on this game.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's especially considering when you have, who we all kind of widely regard as the GOAT, especially in towards Go, who blatantly doesn't really care. And also, like, I wouldn't mind if he said, I want to take a break. I think, he said post Stockholm 2021, I want to take a break. And he's finally taken it after kind of all this grind, which is, I can kind of understand. It's probably the best time to take it in terms of, the new game coming out. And if he's not feeling it, I can understand that. But the thing that pisses me off the most about it is like, when Valve devs have gone to him and been like, what don't you like? Tell us what to improve. And he airs them and then gloats like it's a good thing. Like, you're not fucking cool because you've refused to fix the game that you complain about. If you're complaining about it and then giving an outlet to fix the thing you're complaining about, and then you ignore them and brag about it on stream, it doesn't make you cool. You just look like a fucking idiot. Like, so it's quite annoying because he could have sped up this process massively. Thankfully, we have people like Rops who put in a lot of the effort, but also mainly
and Floppy.
Yeah, and Floppy as well, who have just like spoken to Valve, and the things they've spoken about have been fixed pretty fucking rapidly as well, because Valve are pumping out updates, near enough on the daily at this point. Yeah, I don't know. It's quite frustrating, but like, he can do whatever he wants. He's never really gonna. He doesn't care, right? He just does his own thing. So let's go on to tournaments themselves. And of course, we can kickstart things with Sydney. Probably the best one to kind of start with. Back in Australia for Sydney for an S tier event, which is good to see. Of course, we have Melbourne every year, but it's only A tier. Sydney, good that we've only had it since 2019 was the last time that we had it, so good to see. FaZe finishing first, beating Complexity in the finals. Mal's third and fourth with G2, ENCE, and BetBoom fifth and sixth. So not actually not a bad top six, a relatively expected top six, bar BetBoom. Fair play to them. Actually a really good run. They made it all the way from the open quals to sixth place. Yeah, man, fair play. I'll only credit that. That BetBoom team looks pretty good, but overall, once again, just showing FaZe dominance, the team look nuts.
But we do have to talk about Complexity, because
Sadly.
we're here on this podcast, and I'm here on this podcast, and it wouldn't be fair. I get all this shit thrown at me for so long, and I finally have a platform where I can, herald NA's GOATs for right now, because I loved what I saw from this team. It was like every single thing that I was hyping Complexity about that would fall off the little 5%, 10% that they would show in like pressure games, rose to the occasion and went that extra 5-10% and looked so good. Like Floppy's anchoring was on another level in this tournament. It didn't feel like he could do anything wrong. JT was getting entries after entries. Super impactful playing from the IGL role. You didn't necessarily even need to have Grim outputting too many frags, but he was still outputting them nonetheless. And of course, Elige was just like unstoppable. It really felt like we were back in prime Liquid days of Elige, where he says, I'm going to win this match for you. Flash me up mid, flash me out here, flash me here, and I'm going to just go and duel, and he'll get multi-kill after multi-kill. And eventually, Halzuk realized that he didn't even necessarily need to opt too much. He was picking up the scoped rifles here and there, and he was doing pretty well with it. So overall, it's fantastic to see finally, like, all the pieces of the puzzle that Complexity had been building for so long finally hit that threshold that they were looking for. Now, I don't know if they're necessarily going to be a finalist team at every tournament. I don't want to like jump the gun and say that outright, but it still just feels like the baseline of this team has instantly jumped up, and I could see them regularly making like a playoff here and there, at the very least, and challenging some of these top European teams, just because this game really does breed excellence for North American when they can just wide swing everything. That's what we do every day.
Yeah, exactly that. I think another thing as well, it's that map 3 was pretty fucking nuts. It was
open. It was really open, to be honest.
I actually genuinely, I would say, like, not in a bad way, but like it's the only way I can word it, like that. Like Complexity should have won it, like in regulation for me.
Yeah.
And they just let it slip a little bit. I think that's maybe where you look at FaZe and just think, everyone always said it in Go, but this is the side that turn on when it really matters. You know what I mean? Back against the walls where FaZe do their best work. Pretty prime example. Like that second half from Complexity off the back of how poor the first half was so good, and you thought surely this is them. But fair play. You know, I have been an NA hater mainly because it's funny to annoy Paladin. I've always actually loved NACS. I mean, I literally started watching CSGO because of Stewie and Tarek.
It's on record now, boys.
Yeah.
It's on record.
Oh, mate, that has been from the get-go. I only do it to annoy Paladin. But I got to give them credit. They actually played really well. They're the fun to watch. I got to say, like, as well, like, post-Melbourne, in my mind, I was like, surely at some point JT's got to go. Like, they changed, or I think they would, at the time, they were going to change Fang. It was, like, rumored, but it was, like, kind of, you're in the know, you know it's going to happen kind of thing. And that's good. You know, Fang's obviously not working. Realistically, if things continue looking rough, JT's on the chopping block next. But then does TC? Sorry, does he? You know, are they a package deal? All these questions. But like basically, like that was for me like where it was at. But I give him credit, he played really well, and also just it seemed like he called a very very good tournament, all things considered. So a lot of credit. Definitely, there's no changes needed for Complexity. I really do hope they actually keep this up because it actually makes North America less of a meme. It actually makes them interesting now because, you know, for the longest time, especially with Liquid, then going EU and now fuck knows what they're doing. It's actually been kind of disappointing not to have like a bit of a rivalry in a way from like EU and NA teams. Like as much as it's not really that big of a deal anymore with how many international rosters there are, it's kind of just fun to have that NA EU rivalry. But yeah, I'm glad to see Complexity playing well. It makes it exciting at the top because I was actually very scared that coming in, it was going to be like ENCE, MOUZ, FaZe, maybe G2, and like that is it. Like no other teams even like scrapes the surface. So I'm glad we've got some other teams coming through.
Yeah, it's sorry, I'll just want to say that go. I like the you make a good point because I was actually talking to some friends about it the other day, right? Rivalries are kind of like almost dead in CS. Like specific rivalries between teams are kind of dead. It used to be Fnatic versus NIP. That was a famous one, the Swedish, rivalry between the two. I think the closest thing we have to that now, especially with all the ridiculous news of possibly Astralis taking Stabby, Stan and Yabi, I think Heroic and Astralis are probably the closest thing we have to a proper like domestic rivalry now. And between countries, even between actual between, as you say, between EU and NA, doesn't really exist much anymore. So to have at least one NA team flying the flag is really nice, and I like it. And especially if Liquid are going back to an NA core with the possibility of Twist and Skull. So I do like that. I do like that.
We'll be sick.
Now we just need an Asian team to get up there and we'll just fly all the flags at the major. It's like I love that like competitiveness when we had that global scene, and it does really feel like since COVID happened, we are just leaning more and more to European Counter-Strike, which is understandable. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. It should have been the case for a while. It just accelerated that.
Yeah.
Now it's just a question of how do we break that mold? You know, North America continues to build and heal. I do like that Complexity have facilities here in America as well, because it'd be great to have them come back after their European stints, give away knowledge to some of the top teams, you know, your M80s, your Nouns, your Wildcards, and get them up to speed. So when they do get their opportunities, they don't squander it. They kind of prosper, learn a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's just how a region builds. I mean, we've seen how much it's done for Asia. Like you look at Tyloo, Linvision. I mean, I could keep listing teams in that area, and they all like their level of that region has gotten so much higher. You look at every close qualifier there, and it's an absolute nail biter. Yeah, I mean, and it was a full sold out crowd.
Full crowd for a close qual. Yeah,
which is just so cool, right? And I mean that's just where it all has to build. You have to give a little bit of success from one of those teams, and they've just got to go back and give that knowledge and let the region kind of grow from there. But yeah, I think things look really bright for all of the smaller regions, and it's only a matter of time. I think maybe not Copenhagen, but I could see Shanghai being pretty competitive from all regions in some form or fashion.
I have very, very, very high hopes for just generally like going forward, like the Asian region. If that's the kind of viewership we're getting for like a closed qualifier, then it's proof in the pudding that support's there, and proof to kind of orgs and anyone investing in that region that like we can if we can sell out, and also probably proof the other way as well to like TOs like like ESL and Blast and maybe any others, like even like CAC, right? Like having these things and being like, you know, what's the viewership going to like? What's the crowd going to be like? Well, now you know, like really good. Like it's actually a very, very solid showing. And if that's what it's like for a closed qualifier, imagine what it's going to be like for the Shanghai Major. It's pretty good. It's pretty good signs. I feel like we just need the teams to catch up because, like, you know, to put it lightly, they're all terrible. Like, like this is, yeah. I speak honestly. None of them are good. And it doesn't help that their transfers are rogue, to say the least. The only one that I really have any sort of faith in is maybe Tai Lu. Right now, I still like, as much as it's like kind of cool seeing like Lim Vision do like well at times, they are the most inconsistent team. As someone who's done the last 5 seasons of ESO Asia, trust me, it will fall apart sooner rather than later. They just cannot keep up the consistency. But I'm hoping that can change if we have more tournaments on home soil for them, because it'd be good. The only problem is, of course, the timing. But we can talk about that. We can talk about CAC, another one under FaZe's belt, looking again very, very good. The kind of Rops Masterclass coming through, but all things considered, it felt a very easy tournament from FaZe. Bar that kind of ends game, which is a little bit of work there, but I think generally this is a side who looked very solid. Obviously, they had the OT one as well against Nip, but generally this is just another FaZe Masterclass. They looked really, really good. Rops was playing incredible, hence why all the talks about him being the best player in the world came out, understandably, with him walking away with the MVP. Yeah, very, very sick to see. Good to see Miles back in the final after kind of how a bit laxated as what it was. I am Sydney. I thought they probably, in my eyes, going into Sydney, I thought they were going to make it to the finals.
They had Nexius, didn't they?
Yeah, so. Exactly. So without Yin Fight, really does let that. But he played quite well, to give him some credit. That Nexius kid. But yeah, good to see them playing back in the final. But yeah, FaZe again. They're just looking sick.
I really did like what N showed at this tournament. It sucks because, again, it's another one of those teams where it's like, you don't know if you're gonna get this 5-man lineup again. I mean, obviously Vladin was playing for this team right now, but I'm talking more snappy in the big picture. Of course, Dia can always come back, but I was even hearing talks that Senpaius was on the chopping block as well. Of course,
to Falcons,
this is all the Falcons, and I would hate to see an organization like this just completely fall apart, because not only would ENCE have to now scout out yet another Opper that's in that flux period of becoming a top 20 player, but you'd also have to replace Snappy, which frankly I don't think you can do anywhere else. They're considering the chance of, I think Glaive was the aforementioned player that they're thinking of replacing him with, which, you know what, I would take the chance with. If there was any IGL that I would take right now or take a chance on. Sure, individually he's not great, but I think that the opportunity to have him play in an international squad where you already know that these pieces work would be super exciting.
Yeah.
It's just a bummer because this current 5-man lineup, even with Vladin in just random roles and Snappy playing like outside on Nuke and in this discombobulated way, they still look so good, and it's just so much fun to watch them play so fearlessly that it would be a real bummer to just see them fall away. I want to see them contending for trophies for longer, you know?
Yeah, agreed. I think, I mean, you know, we can give them the credit of they're a side who have rebuilt in the past and successfully, and they continue to find players here, there, and everywhere, and they're very good financially speaking. Obviously, like we know, like they're one of the few orgs in the scene that are actually profitable, which is sick. But yeah, I think you're spot on. If they lose what is rumored to be Snappy and Senpaius, like pre-RMR, they're gonna be fucked. Like there's just no way. Like there's no way they can get someone short term up to speed. That's available, and then also within their budget, and then doesn't have an insane buyout, doesn't have a crazy wage. All of these, like, there's like a million different factors that make you an ENCE player, and on short notice, that's just so difficult to find.
Yeah, I think it's going to be borderline. That's what's so fascinating about this upcoming RMR, is it's just going to be borderline teams on the brink of dying, maybe, or teams that now have the opportunity to step into the shoes of others that have vacated those slots, right? I'm actually really excited to see how that will turn out because of that. But would be sad for ENCE if they are to if they are to sort of fall away, because they were the second most consistent team of the year,
Yeah.
like without a doubt. It sort of started out being Heroic. Heroic had that streak of just making playoffs every single time. We're like, okay, yeah, they're the most consistent boys. They might not win things, but they're always there. Then they kind of blew up, and Ents took over that mantle, and they were even winning events, of course. And to be basically one of the top teams in the world, be so consistent, have that synergy with Snappy, that they all seem to trust him so much, for that to be blown up if he goes to Falcons. I mentioned this on a tweet. I think Snappy, obviously, if you're going to choose anyone for Falcons, Snappy is a fantastic choice.
Yeah.
But I just don't see how. Obviously, things don't happen overnight. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a classic saying. But I don't see how, even with the time they have now, if Snappy can build up Falcons like he built up Ents. Like, I would honestly think Ents is his best shot by a long way. And it's sad to see him leave if he does, because it's not confirmed yet, obviously.
Right. It answers a fun question of what if Snappy did have all the superstar pieces?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the best part about Snappy is those mid-round calls, those out-of-spawn calls that he's built with that team, that built that chemistry for so long, that I don't know how you get that same sort of spark with players that you've never played with before. And sure, a lot of flexibility comes in. You have a player like, I mean, okay, I would have said Nico, but Nico isn't there anymore. But if you did have a talismanic player like a Nico or something like that, they can go and make the plays themselves. You don't have to really call too much. But at the same time, it's like that's what makes Snappy special, is where he does, micromanage out a spawn and then give those players a little bit of freedom in the mid to late round to kind of make those decisions. And I don't know. I don't think the Falcons is the place for him. Personally, I just would love to see him retire on Ents and just keep trying with different players, because this core stayed together for so long,
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, when you've seen how unstable everybody else is looking right now and how that means that results are in flux, and then you've got the sense of we've been one of the most successful teams this year. Probably you could even make an argument to say, like, just generally overall in the scope of the year, the most successful, at least alongside them with like Now FaZe.
Business wise as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
They make profit. Yeah.
So you look at it that sense, and then especially even if you are Snappy and be like, well, I'm taking such a gamble, but then I think there's probably just the other side of it's high risk but massively high reward, because there's a real potential of a super team here. And I know that work gets turned around. And I know it took like FaZe like 3 years to actually make a super team work, but if there's a super team that gets built where Snappy gets given all those pieces that we kind of spoken about, that would be really interesting for I always see this from quite a neutral viewpoint. And like I kind of want it to happen in the sense that I like the chaos, but I also really want to see it as a bit of a litmus test to Snappy, because like Snappy's always it's kind of always been his world. But I want to see what it's like when it's Snappy with Zonic, for example, which is two different mindsets and how the game kind of works a little bit, but then also how Snappy deals with pure prime superstars rather than kind of guys who are now superstars but weren't when they came in. Like Nert's a good example. He now is a superstar rifler, but doesn't have the ego, so to say, of a superstar rifler. But I want to see what he's like with those kind of scenarios. There's no way out the gate this is successful. I can't see a world. It would go against every trend that we've seen ever, basically. But I really want to see it out of just interest, just because like the possibilities that could come with it. Also, I think as much as people like to talk about having even tournaments or having multiple teams competing at the top, it is also quite fun to have one team be dominant. Like I think like when we look back at like CSGO, like the Astralis era was just so fun, because you go to every tournament and be like, who can actually beat these guys? Like you go to a major and be like, okay, so Astralis won the last 3, like surely not again. And those kind of things for me, I find quite interesting. I'd like to see another another team that potentially has the possibility to start an era and like keep it, just in terms of name value.
Right. The difference is that all of those teams had some sort of an endearing factor to them.
Yeah.
For Falcons, it would just be like, yeah, we just bought them and put them in a team and just like want to win. So
yeah.
it's hard to, and again, team culture has to be built up again. The identity has to be built up again.
Very true.
But you just go down the list, of course, like looking at SK, the Brazilians like bursting on the scene, becoming dominant. Fnatic, they had that sort of villain tendency to them that was still super
True.
exciting to follow. Similar thing with Astralis, but you still had Device, who was like who could love Device at that point. And again, you could just go down the list and find
Yeah.
something that was like really gravitating about them. But it could be new territory, right? At the same time, of like we have a Band City in CS that just
Yeah.
picks up everybody and just tries to dominate the scene by just buying everybody out, and we'd have a new villain in the scene, and it wouldn't be like I feel like people would be pretty vitriolic, but it'd be fun to see them get toppled in
Yeah.
some form or fashion.
Yeah,
So
it does make me wonder, like, who is actually going to be a fan of the team. Like, you get fans of organizations still because of their legendary history or whatever. Like, is there anyone who's actually going to be a fan of Falcons? Oh, that sounds really mean, but like, maybe they're a fan because of the players. But anyway, what I was going to say was that it does make me wonder, especially with the lack of Nico now on Falcons. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying I still presume Snappy will probably commit to the project. But it does make me wonder if some of these players are going to look at what FaZe are doing with the same roster, having been together for so long at the beginning of CS2, thinking to themselves, hang on a second, why don't we just take a minute and stick together and see
Yeah.
what happens? Because, like, there's no... surely they'll probably consider themselves to be as successful with their current team. I'm sure Nico looked at that and maybe gave it a proper thought and thought, okay, let's really weigh up these two options here. And he looks at G2 and says, okay, I've got my baby brother Munazi, I've got my cousin Hunter. Like, even if we change things up by removing JKS, which has now obviously happened, I feel more comfortable here, and I feel like I could still. We won events. We won Kato and Cologne this year, for goodness sake. The two star events of the year. Like, he's made the right decision. He's made the based decision.
Yeah.
For sure. And yeah, it does make me wonder if like the people are looking at FaZe thinking, hang on a second, let's just hold on.
Yeah, exactly. I think especially just because, like, again, it is just such a gamble. That side. I guess we can come back to kind of more the transfer rumor mill towards the tail end.
Yeah.
I think second to last tournament to talk about, one that we were all part of, Thunderpick World Championship, the GOAT, another FaZe victory. It's kind of the MO here, the theme. But again, another really cool tournament because we were all part of it in some way. It was fun. It was really good fun. S-tier tournaments and big teams playing. FaZe ended up winning in the end over VP in the final. Rops, another MVP from him. Very, very fun tournament to be part of. I really did enjoy my time. Also, really well ran from my side. I was actually quite skeptical going in the sense that, like, I hadn't worked with Thunderpick prior to working the quals. So I had literally no information. I kind of, when you haven't worked with a TO before, especially for how long I've been in the industry, it makes it sound like I've been here a long time. I haven't in hindsight, but like, generally speaking, it's like 3+ years or whatever. You kind of feel like you've worked with most people in the online space. You know who's good, you know who's bad. I had no idea about Thunderpick as a TO, or I guess like as a TO in the sense of how things are going to be run, whether it's going to be like janky as hell or solid. But from my perspective, it was really, really good. It was very easy, like very simple, very easy. Good games, good production, people nice. It was like it was everything. My side was really solid, so it was fun. Like, I think sometimes when you work a tournament and like productions like shit, like which you don't really see that often on the stream, but it is just like stressful. But yeah, the Fantasy Expo guys killed it. Like, they just made our life very, very easy, and the tournament itself was sick. A lot of good games, lot to see. It was. I enjoyed it. I actually don't really have anything bad to say about it, which is quite rare for me.
No, absolutely. Honestly, I really loved it. Yeah, like, everyone involved was really easy to work with. I'm gonna give a shout out to Coxyarks for being one of the best. I think online talent managers I think I've worked with yet. Like, he deserves a name check. He was absolutely brilliant with all of us.
Agreed.
And yeah, I think the matches were superb. Me and Neo did the Mals versus Spirit game, which that ancient lives going to live long in my memory as one of the best opening sort of CS2 casts that I did. It obviously wasn't my first, but it was one that during the early period of the game that I'll remember. And I think the final as well. The final, that VP game against FaZe on Vertigo, where FaZe just like did so many ridiculous things that could just not be repeated. Me and Alan and Sam, Tech Girl, were just laughing in the TeamSpeak at what ridiculous things we were witnessing from FaZe, and how they on Earth they managed to pull that in a 2-0 in their favor. Yeah, Vertigo is not a map that they necessarily play a lot of. Maybe that is the only way they could win. I said maybe if they had their stars activated, that's the way they can win it. And that's Alan, I think, made a bold prediction of Rops needs to drop 35 to win, and what happened? Rops dropped 35 to win. So yeah, it says a lot about their current form and Rops' current form. As well, and of course it was a pleasure to work a lot of it with you guys too. Casted some with Paladin, the old EU and NA series. I think we did a final of one of the NA series. Did quite a lot of EU. We casted the main event, and of course even for the playoffs. It was the first time I've ever done any form of proper analyst desk as well, even though it wasn't in person. It still counts technically. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and the company was great, and I enjoyed it because the teams were great and the gamers were great.
Yeah, the production, like, they largely weren't getting in our way too much. There's a lot of times where you're like online and they kind of shove these things that you have to hit or have to talk about, and it usually gets in the way of the quality of the broadcast. But they were pretty like laissez-faire about everything, and I really appreciate that. As even for the desks, like they had like a set amount of graphics, but if we didn't necessarily need it, they're willing to skip through it. It was fun to get back on the desk as well. Like, I've been casting for so long,
Yeah.
and like at least in the gap that I've had from my previous desk to now, it's like I've just been casting for probably like a year straight now. And it's like a completely different experience. You never like really realize it until you're doing it. But it is just way more enjoyable for me personally. But yeah, the games were fantastic. It was fun to see Cloud9. That Cloud9 big game was really fun, where we got to see like the 5 rifle meta slowly starting to develop. That's super cool. Like, everybody will definitely be keeping an eye on that. Virtus Pro is still super exciting to watch. I know that's a sentence that people don't usually say, but I genuinely do enjoy watching them just because their style is something that isn't really replicable in this game, but they still manage to make it work. James looks super fun on the AWP when his back is against the wall. He's making that op look pretty consistent. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching all these teams play. They still came with their A game, where in some online tournaments you'll see where these teams kind of phone it in, but I don't necessarily feel like any one of these like top teams in the playoffs especially really phoned it in, which makes for like a really enjoyable view experience for
Monty game
us
too,
on for us
the
on the
Monty VP
desk
game.
or casting. Like, we're still excited about it, and you can definitely see that when we're talking about it, and of course the viewers at home will obviously enjoy watching it as well. So it was a good event all around, and it's really nice to be a part of a production that would to be that involved in a circuit and a production like that. And I hope they come back next year, because I think
let's run a LAN, boys.
I really have no notes. Yeah, do it on LAN. Let's have another in-person 2.5 talent. Just bring it on.
Exactly. It was good overall. Very little complaints. Yeah, very very fun to watch. Also, quite fun to watch. Like a rogue heroic, just like kind of just duking it out. Like, dupreeh played really well, like just the whole way through. Very very solid. Also, my goat Syrah. I've been singing this kid's praises for like all year since I first saw him play, in like his first ever HLTV official. Like, this kid's something special. Played pretty damn well. Despite having like mad tech issues, he was like dropping out like every round, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But overall though, very fun to see. Really like solid kind of effort in terms of like what I'd expect from some of the teams like a Monty, who are just like online merchants. That's where they do like literally their best work. They've played the second most officials this year, just behind Nexus, which is insane to consider. They also do LAN as well. Like, it's kind of like, it's incredible that Nexus are doing it, because they're just playing, I think they're averaging like over a map a day or something like that. It's quite a lot. They're over like 330 maps when I checked a couple of weeks ago. But Monty are doing it with LANs as well, which is like, I think, just even more impressive. They're traveling and then playing all these officials and traveling still. It's nuts how much they play Counter-Strike, and basically every tournament they're in. They play like as well as doing all the tier 1 tournaments, because they're like one of the few teams that have remained consistent from the tier 2, rise at Blast Paris. Yeah, they're also doing like every CCT, which they just don't need to do, like, by any means. They're a fully fledged tier 1 team. They're like, top 8, I think they still are, something like that. Like, they are, an elite team, 7th now even. So they've even gone up since last time I checked. So, yeah, they do not need to be playing CCTs by any means. But Kings of the Grind, man, I got to give them so much credit. They're playing literally everything. And it's working. They're literally just showing, like, once again, that we've seen it happen every single year. 2020-ish, when we had, like, kind of Sinners doing a really good job, and, like, Entropic. And then 2021, same thing of, like, Sinners and Entropic. We had a Copenhagen Flames, Ecstatic as well, who did good work. It's always these tier 2 teams who grind, who can actually make deep runs.
And then Gambit came through, of course, with all that as well.
Exactly. So, yeah, sick. I'm glad to see Monty continue doing well. But in the end, FaZe always win.
I would have really liked to see. I mean, obviously the VP game was great in the final, but like Monty were probably tearing their hair out in the evening of the semi-final game against VP, because that was the game that I don't know how they. I think you were on the desk for that, weren't you? That one.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
I don't know how they lost against VP. It's the classic VP moment of managing to grind out a win
in OT
from nowhere.
As well.
Yeah,
like,
from nowhere.
So tilting.
But you're right. Like the second in Rubet, third, fourth in Thunderpick. Consistent in lands. They had a great placing in Pro League, of course, back in CSGO. They've translated it to CS2 pretty well. I'm looking forward to seeing them coming up, because they've got quite a few events coming, more lands, so more chance to maybe reignite that rivalry with VP, because we're seeing a lot of that right now online. And I think that those two teams, I think, are pretty evenly matched, so it's a great game always when they go up against each other, for sure.
Yeah. So, speaking of FaZe, we've got another tournament that FaZe are competing in. Our final one to talk about today, which is Blast. The Blast Premier, of course, for final back in the Royal Arena in Copenhagen. It's all to play for, basically. This is going to be banging, of course, starts in, was it like 9 days, like that? Or maybe a little bit less. We've got FaZe, Vitality, Complexity, Na'Vi, Astralis, Cloud9, NIP, and Heroic. It should be pretty interesting, of course. We've got Heroic coming back in with Cadian.
The last dance, the actual
last dance coming through. We've got a new look NIP with Alex coming through, and of course Esteg back in the team. We've got Cloud9, of course, not new look, but new land look with like officially with Boomich, not just stand-in Boomich, officially Boomich. Astralis, but not new look just yet, but soon to be, which we'll probably come to. This might be the last look of this iteration of Astralis. Na'Vi, who of course have now brought in Wonderful to replace Simple, which I'm a big fan of. Complexity, of course, coming off the back of a really good run, and Vitality introducing the GOAT, Mezzy, which is sick to see. The king of UKCS on one of the best teams in the world. So deserved. So basically, there's a lot of new looking teams here. There's going to be a sick tournament.
Yeah,
and you get to have it in the Royal Arena as well, which is like always so fun, man.
I get to watch it at a normal time of day, not watching CS at 8 a.m. like Sydney and China, which, sick tournaments, but lads, that time zone, my God.
Yeah.
Well, they get it the other way, so, you got to give them some.
I'm really looking forward to it for many reasons. I think it's what's really fascinating. It's just how many new rosters we're actually going to see. Like, this is the first big event for a lot of them. Like, obviously, Cloud9 had Thunderpick, but for having Boomich in tow, we still don't know for sure what the plan is in terms of the IGL. Axel said to me that Hobbit's doing a lot of it because he understands the system, but I think for sure they'll probably transfer that over to Boomich at some point.
For sure.
I think Heroic playing with Xiphon, for me, is the perfect choice. Xiphon's like the only one who didn't really get a proper upgrade after his Copenhagen Flames days, of course. It was Nikodos and Roy to Fnatic, it was Yabi to Heroic, and it was Hooksy to G2. But Xiphon just went to Sprout and kind of played okay, but then went on to the bench due to some attitude problems and then came back, of course. I really hope the Heroic, if they make a call on who to pick up, I hope they choose Xiphon. I think he deserves this chance, especially with good people around him. We don't know, of course, what's going to happen with Cadian once he eventually does depart full time, but I love that for Xiphon. And of course, Wonderful on Na'Vi. I really like it, as Neo said. I completely on board with that. I think it's the best choice they could possibly have made. Sprout have completely blown up this year, poor Sprout, because they've just got so many stars that they have to
Yeah.
pass off to better teams. And actually, NIP with Alex is pretty interesting as well, because I'm actually me and Paladin have a chance to cast the Alex debut tomorrow, actually, which we'll get into later. But yeah, very interested to see how the NIP work out.
Yeah, I can't really see any issues with this event. I'm excited to see kind of the car crashes that are imminent, because it's not going to be pretty CS, that's for sure. It's going to be very ugly, and
My favorite.
that's just the way I like it right now. Like the defaults are so like mismanaged and poor. Like we're skipping like the whole let's wait for a minute 30 and execute on 20 seconds. It's more like let's just go and see what happens, and let's get onto a bomb site at 50 seconds. And that is just so much more entertaining, because you get to skip all the boring, okay, let's do the map control thing, into let's take a duel somewhere on the map, and then let's make a decision to go up on another part of the map, and you do that rinse and repeat again and again. But since you do have players like ROPS and teams like FaZe and Complexity that are just wide swinging and winning in the defaults early, it's going to force other teams to also follow in the same footsteps. We already saw it with Cloud9 during Thunderpick, with that super duper active defense that they would have on maps like an Anubis. Of course, Vitality is all the even on Nuke, yeah, which they played surprisingly, which was super exciting. And they look pretty good. So that's always super exciting. You look at Astralis, even though they have pressure with the fact that this lineup is not going to stay together, they still looked really good at the CAC. I enjoyed watching them play. They're serviceable enough to at least make that group be competitive. And who knows, man, when players on Heroic have no pressure within them, maybe they go for a deep run too. Like, you actually have no idea what any of these teams are going to bring. And that makes this so exciting, because let's say Astralis or Heroic like trip their way into the playoffs. You have them in front of that crowd. Anything is possible at that point. Like, legitimately, the tournament is wide open. And that, even with FaZe being as dominant as they are, I could see them trip here or there and lose a clutch here or there or something, because, you know, it is Copenhagen, it is the Royal Arena, and maybe the crowd cheats here or there. Like, there are all these opportunities. There's so many chances for all of these teams that this is one of the most even tournaments that I'm excited for in a long while. I feel.
Yeah. I really cannot wait to watch this. That first game as well. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying I have the entire day off as well on the 22nd. So it's gonna be good, man. I'm gonna be sitting. I fixed the sleep schedule a bit, so getting up at 9 a.m. is not too bad. Yeah, it's gonna be good, man. I really cannot wait to see that opening game. FaZe NIP is gonna be a bit of a banger. I want to see S-Tag do well, man. I love that guy. I really do. I actually respect him a lot as a player. So I want to see him do well. But predictions, I guess we can probably make a little run through of like who we think is going to win what. We can let me get. There we go. So we'll go game by game. We'll start with FaZe NIP. I'm gonna go FaZe.
Yeah, pretty good.
Really? God,
good.
Really
God.
putting your balls to the wall there.
What a contrarian!
What a contrarian! Cloud9,
FaZe.
Na'Vi. I'm gonna go Cloud9.
Dude, yeah, I have to go Cloud9.
I want to say Cloud9, but I am a fan of Lexi B, dude.
I hate
and
it.
I'm a fan of Wonderful. I'm a fan of Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I think they're gonna have a hell of a honeymoon phase.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go Na'Vi here. Of course, majority Cloud9, but
fair play. So,
fair play.
I gotta give you some respect for like absolute pea brain take. I love it.
That is actually such a sick matchup though in general. For that to be an opening round matchup, it's so cool. And really fascinating. I'll be really interested to see what Cloud9 do in terms of their veto, because if they are actually bringing Nuke back in and phasing out Vertigo, it makes such a huge amount of sense, considering that some of their their old Na'Vi stars never played Vertigo much. So yeah,
I love one.
Na'Vi's Nuke. Na'Vi's Nuke is like their second rotation, so it's not even like the primary map in their pool. So Cloud9 could float it if they wanted to, and they could go there, which could be fun.
Gotta say, Wonderful looks insanely good on CS2, dude. He, like, you know, we were saying about kind of most AWPers struggling, but some make it look easy. Brokey being one of them, Art Frost another one who makes Orping look quite easy, and then Wonderful makes Orping look insanely easy on CS2. So I'm really happy he finally got like an actual true call up to tier 1 and he gets to actually show himself. We shall see. And then obviously upper finals. Let's say if we go with the majorities, we're going with Cloud9, FaZe. I think it's probably safe to say FaZe there, but I think that game will be closer than people think. I actually really like the way Cloud9 play because Boomich is like a nutcase.
Oh yeah,
it
works.
Yeah,
to quote Axile, he is pretty funny boy.
Yeah, he's actually
his exact words.
He's insane in the server. Like he will just do like what looks like the dumbest plays, but it's sick. So I think that'd be close, but I can't. It kind of doesn't make really sense to go against FaZe right now. They're just like so dominant. Over to Group B, Vitality Heroic is opening game. I'm gonna go Vitality. I was gonna go Vitality.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that's the agreed upon. I do like the look of this Heroic, but it's very mix and match.
This Vitality, don't get me wrong, love Mezzy. Delighted for him to have an opportunity to join a team like this, who are quite literally the defending major champions. Like it's absolutely insane for a UK player. Like I'm so happy for him. I am worried for them overall, in terms of the fact that we haven't seen them much yet in general, right? Sure. It's like there's not been many reps yet at all for them. And that makes me think that if Heroic, obviously, as you said before, if they somehow find themselves in the arena up against Vitality, I feel like that's a game which Heroic could genuinely just beat Vitality on, like out of the blue. Like I really think it's possible.
Do you not think they have enough firepower just to like pound for
wipe
pound?
The floor with
yeah,
them.
do you know what I mean?
Wipe the floor.
They could literally this is a super team now in the same sense that like FaZe are building one, G2 being yeah. Like in my eyes, like if name value was the results, we would see FaZe, G2, and Vitality be like that top 3 with like no teams even close, because name value wise are insane. So I think when it comes down to it, as much as I agree, like in the arena and having the home crowd is like obviously really sick. I can't see a world where there's not kind of just pound for pound, right? Like, you know, like these are all land vets. It's not like the new guys. And that's another thing as well. Like, even though he's obviously pretty good in his home turf, Xiphon isn't exactly a land veteran by any means.
He's playing one major quarterfinal.
Exactly.
That's it.
So he's going to be quite out of his depth. He is still quite young as well, and obviously those attitude problems don't just go immediately. Do you know what I mean? So, you know,
it's actually crazy that Xiphon is 19, by the way. Like, that you think that obviously that the run with Copenhagen Flames, now that at this point that is 2 years ago. Yeah. So he was 17 then. It just kind of blows your mind slightly. But yeah, I know I will concur with you. Like I do agree that Vitality should be one of the super teams now. I guess just that subconscious thought that you have of having not seen them yet. Yeah. You don't know what they've been cooking up, I guess is probably my thought process. But having Xtaz back is cool as well. So I think they'll be absolutely fine. There's so much synergy there.
I will say that filling the void of a player like Magisk is really difficult. Like Agreed. This guy was so reliable for them in some really terrible spots. Like anchoring is a hard, like on a map like Mirage, is a hard thing to do. To be very, very withholding and play as passive as you are, with as aggressive riflers as you have on your team, with Flames, with Spinks, and even ZywOo at times. Now Mezzy has to learn how to like walk that line, and he's got to learn that very quickly, because this team can have some defensive breakdowns very quickly. I think it could be a huge value to them on the T side, because I think Mezzy is just so cerebral. He knows how to find gaps in the defense really well. He understands how to play clutches really well. Which I don't think Magisk was bringing as much, which it's still comparable, but I'd still take Mezzy in that clutching aspect, which would be really fun. Like I could see their way to just scrap through it in like 2v2s, 3v3s. Like Apex, I don't think it really has to call too brilliantly. If everything works, then they can just be like that clutch team, which could be really fun.
What's your thought on Maui saying that Mezzy's one of the more overrated riflers in recent times?
I'd agree, because I think that ever since he had to get out of that IGLing role, he had a couple pop-off performances, but by large, Fnatic is still a pretty meh organization with that lineup in particular. And now that you don't have them, they're pretty much like a very whatever org. But I think Mezzy made that team what it was and was very exciting. but he's not the player that is going to make you win tournaments. He's not a player that's going to just take you over the top. He should be like your fourth or fifth best player if you want like a championship contending roster. Luckily for Vitality, he is that fourth or fifth best player that they have here, which is exciting because I
like
would
it.
like him. I would like him as a field player. That being said, he's him being a jack of all trades doesn't make him exceptional at any one role. So it'll be very interesting to see whether he could slot into that very Magus style of play, and having to be shoehorned into that idea has yet to be seen. Because on Fnatic, he was that kind of starish. On Cloud9, he's a little bit more supportive, but I'd say he was more like a B anchor type player. And then you look towards his time on his IGL on Fnatic was kind of so-so. And then at the tail end of Fnatic was also kind of like it was good at times, but not great always. So there's a lot of room for Mezzi to improve, and there's going to be growing pains. But if there's any player that I would say like, oh, I could very much see him learn the role very well and adapt, it would be him. So give it some time. I will say he's overrated. I do agree with that, but I'm not going to say that he's terrible. Like, he's still a very serviceable player. You're just going to have to give him a little bit of time to slot into the role.
Overrated on what metric though? Because the only thing that I would count that with, and this is not even just like regional bias, is I always kind of saw it the other way. I always thought he made Fnatic look serviceable for a team that has just dog shit players. If you just look at the players that they've had recently, Afro, not great. Dexter, not great. Fasha has been benched for the second time in 4 months. Very much not great. Heap, if I speak. Roy, not great. Nikodos, if I speak. Poison, if I speak. Regali, actually okay, but again, not gonna. He's not, breaking. He's not like a. This is best of the best AWPer. He's a decent AWPer, but he's a cheaper option. And then we start going into the likes of, I'm just looking through the transfers now, and then there's like, people like Smooya and whatever. So we're going way back when. There's no superstars on that team ever. There is none. Bar, obviously the guys who've been there forever, in that at Crims, who is Mr. Reliable, but again, he isn't like a superstar in the sense that he isn't going to be, he's not like going into a team like, coming in like they've never had someone who's even remotely close to like, a Zywoo or a Simple or a Rops or a Twist or anyone even close to that for years. So like, I also kind of think of it the other way where it's like Fnatic have always remained an actually relatively competent team with terrible players bar him. And I know obviously he gets all the best roles. He gets all the best opportunities. Don't get me wrong. So obviously he kind of has to perform. But at the same time, like I do think he propped up that team a lot. And obviously now Fnatic, I think they're in the mud because I don't really know who they can pick up, and what their plans are and whatnot.
When you go back to Sweden, I think is a rumor, isn't it?
Yeah, like Brolin and
might
Hampus
go back to the roots.
Is like the rumors.
That's the best choice for them, I think, if they want to go back to the roots. But I will just clarify quickly that I think the main thing that Maui said about Mezzi was the fact that people sort of people do seem to talk him up better than he thinks he actually is. But it's more the fact that he thinks, as Annie said, you're absolutely right. If he can be the fourth or fifth best player on the team, that is perfect. He can be that player, he can be that role, and he can and being good enough in that position can win you tournaments. And I think he said like the only reason he thinks that's the case is because it's his playoff performances in big games were poor, and that's where he hasn't shown up. He disappeared in the big moments, which is fair. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
As well, I feel like as well, it's quite difficult to shine when your team doesn't shine. Do you know what I mean? Like Fnatic don't shine in playoffs. I mean, when was the last time Fnatic made consistent playoff runs? I can't even remember it. Like, you know what I mean? So like, I think for me, like on the other side, again, this is generally not coming from a place of regional bias. Anyone who would be in the same position as Mezzi, I would say the same thing in the sense that his team don't shine. So I feel like it's so hard to always expect him to shine. But I feel like as well going into Vitality, he isn't going in there to be the star, which is kind of a good thing. I think, he like, as anyone who's ever like met him or anyone who's even just seen his interviews, like he's one of the shyest guys ever. Like he's like,
very humble as well.
He's very, very shy. He's not like, he's very introverted, the loveliest fucking dude. Probably, I would generally say probably the nicest guy I've met in esports. Like in terms of like how, like, just, he just doesn't have a bad bone in him kind of thing. But yeah, he is just very shy, right? So I feel like he isn't one of those guys who is going to be like egotistical and be like. I feel like kind of most of the time, if you want to be a star, you kind of have to have some sort of level of ego. But yeah, like it's just like not him. But he isn't. I don't think he's expected to be. Not in my eyes, anyway. Joining this team, he's just expected to do a tough job. In all fairness, like Paladin said, like that A RAM position. Like when I'm saying this like I'm any sort of a good player, but when I got plucked on playing A anchor, I did watch Magis demos. That's literally how I learned how to play it to a non-silver level. He is the guy I look towards, and he has been since like the Astralis days. But yeah, it's tough roles, but I just don't think. I think he's not expected to be the guy who's going in. You know, the same way that when Nerds joined Ents, like they had to have this guy perform well. You know what I mean? I don't think in my eyes he's like there to like do that. You know what I mean? He's not playing all of the hero roles,
to have flames
if
and
any.
Spinks,
Exactly.
it's fine.
Yeah. Also, people said the same thing about Spinks for a while as well. They were like, "This guy's hella overrated." And he won a major.
Yumi.
Yeah, Yumi is one of them. But yeah, he also won a major. So I guess you can't say anything now. So yeah, I don't know. I get the thing of overrated in the sense. I fully agree that he isn't like a star. Like he isn't. He's not like a top 5 rifler. There's no. I'm never gonna like make those arguments. He's not like a star player in that sense. But I just think people I feel like also not Maui, but other people misunderstood what he's going into Fnatic for. People think he's going in to be this guy who's going to go in and drop 30 a game. He's not. Like it would be kind of weird if he's doing it consistently because it's not his job. You know what I mean? So it's overrated on what metrics? I agree that he's overrated in terms of he's not a top 5 rifler. He's not one of the best in the world in terms of purely rifling. 100% agree with that. But that's also not his role now. And I don't think it should be his role ever. Like, he is a good player. I don't think he should be a star player all the time. I think he just was because Fnatic was so bad, if that makes sense. So I think he was overrated Fnatic to Vitality, but like in Vitality, that's kind of like, if he's like the 4th best player, that's like perfect for him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And you just make him the closer on the T side, have him clutch a few rounds here or there, hit that 15 kill level mark, 15 to 20 kills, and Bob's your uncle. Everything's figured out.
And he can drop 30. He can drop it. You know what I mean? Like we know.
He can,
yeah, exactly. So like, but we like it's kind of like Rain. Like we just want him to be consistent, do his job, kind of thing, do it very well, which obviously Rain does very well. But occasionally he does like one of those games where he just drops like 28 and 12, and you're like, fair play, Rain. We love it. Like we love to see it. I think that's what I see Mezzi as. So like in my eyes, I don't think he's overrated for that. I think he's on level. I think he does his job. He does it well, and that's what he should be. If that makes sense. But yeah. I don't think as a star, he's that.
He just has big shoes to fill. That's like my main thing. Is that like it's hard to replace a player like that, and I hope that I'm sure he's very well aware of what he's coming into, and there's no doubt in my mind that he's a pretty hardworking player. From what I've seen and what I've heard. So I think that him getting a call up to an org like this is awesome because he was a diamond in the rough for so long in his career. He had that like Cloud9 appearance, was very good there, even though the project kind of failed. Even on Fnatic, I don't think there was a single person on this planet that was like, yeah, Mezzi should be a player that should be involved in negotiations and leaving the roster. That was never a conversation topic. He was always stable there. So having a player that is diligent like that and is never the root of any problem is going to be super nice for them because they've got a lot of egos already on the team. I'd say egos is probably a loose term. I think there's no real player that's like, oh, I'm the shit or anything. But, they're all players that have won a lot of things, and Mezzi has not necessarily done that yet in his career. So having a very passive player in that sense, personality-wise, would also be super nice for them. But yeah, I think there's hard to see a world where this fails. I think, if anything, it'll be very just okay. And I'm very curious to see whether what Vitality's metric is for what they want Mezzi to do on this team. Like, do they want him to be that 25 kill?
As well.
Yeah. Keep in mind, guys, we've not seen anything from this team.
That's what I said.
Bar Sydney, right? Like, we've seen like 4 maps from them, and that's it. So we don't know what Zywoo looks like. We don't know if Spinks is still the same old player that he was before.
Do they
we don't
like
know
CS2?
Flames,
Like,
what's their map pool looking like? Do they want to change things up because Inferno is now a weird pool, a weird map in the pool now that it's all changed. There's so many answers, so many questions that we just don't have any answers for, and who knows? Maybe Messi is just the answer out the gates.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Vitality Heroic, we're both going to go with Vitality. We're all going to go Vitality even. And then we got Complexity Astralis. I think this was pretty smooth as well, especially this iteration of Astralis. I just don't see them as being like remotely competitive. Bar Device and Blame F, obviously, who do look very good. I'm glad Device is playing well and like happy. You know what I mean? Like it's nice, there's no way they scratch the surface here. They maybe get a map, but I think this is pretty clean for Complexity. But then Complexity Vitality, that one I think is a little bit tougher to call, because if we're making the same thing talks about honeymoon phases elsewhere, I think there's a world in which the same argument can be made over towards Vitality, and part of me wants to say Vitality because we haven't seen a lot of them. In my brain, I want to go Vitality in that one. Obviously, up for debate. I'm happy to take it, but that's why I'm going to lean.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty Vitality leaning in some senses, but in my heart, I will lean to Complexity just because I do want to see them continue to get success. I want them to play in the Royal Arena.
For sure.
I think the more time that they have in these playoff environments, the more they get acclimated to that, and the more they understand what they have to do to get to that point in future tournaments where it matters. And that's when you start to get a Complexity that contends for titles. I know it's a long way off, but you've got to at least get the core some time to get the feelers in a LAN environment like that. So I'm going to take them just so they can automatically actually they qualify just straight up if they beat Astralis, but
is the finals.
Yeah,
World final, right?
World finals, yeah.
No. For the Royal Arena, if they beat
Astralis,
Astralis,
yes, no, of course,
they're automatically through the playoffs. Oh, but scratch that. The quarterfinals happen in the studio as well. It's not.
Yeah.
Right. So, never mind. I want Complexity to win. I want them to make it to the Royal Arena. Be super fun for them.
Trav,
yeah, indeed.
You are the decider.
Yeah, I'm going to go back on what I'm going to literally just repeat what I said earlier and say that I'm going to take Complexity purely because we've seen them do so well already consistently, and we haven't seen much from Vitality yet. But who knows? Vitality could just blow Heroic away and look incredibly good, and that obviously that opinion could change in a heartbeat. But I'm actually going to take Complexity for that one, but purely because I've seen more from them that I'm really impressed with, and I think they could still be, and they'll still be obviously as a unit. They have more time as a unit as well. So, yeah, I will just say quickly as well, the fact that we could very, very likely have an Astralis versus Heroic with everything going on behind the scenes. Oh, there it is. Rub the hands together.
Yeah, that is like as a desk analyst, you basically could not get a better game to build a narrative for. Oh my god, that is sex on wheels right there. That is brilliant. Like, absolutely unbelievable storytelling is available there of like multitude fashion as well. There's so many facets you can go into. Like, it's brilliant. Like, just Borop looking at like Yabi and sort of Stown and just being like, damn, dude, like I can't.
God damn it.
God damn it.
Replacing me.
God damn it.
Right.
But then
after this game,
you got the other side as well. You got the likes of, like, for example, Stare, who is probably most likely going to be the other one replaced as well, who just had his best event for Astralis, where he dropped is it 1.26, I think, or something like that, at CAC, played really well, looked very good, and finally looked comfortable. And we know he's like a mega talent, like actually is just really talented. But it kind of feels like too little too late because he's been kind of so poor up until now, and it kind of feels like they've already made the decision, at least by the rumors. So yeah, it's like gone from like he's just put his best performance in, and we know he can play at a tier 1 level, at an elite tier 1 level, but it kind of feels like they've already made all the conversations, they've already started that they're going to pick up Jan and Stabby. So Jan and Stabby? Stown and Yabi. So yeah, it's kind of brutal in a way. It's like too little too late, it kind of feels like.
Yeah, no, my problem with the Astralis organization is just that they have so many situations where they get a good result as a team, and everything looks hunky dory for the lineup. And they're like, okay, well, what if we can make it a little bit better?
Yeah.
How about we like move a player out and then slot another player in? But then everybody's like, why don't you not want to just see where this roster goes? Like, what if this is it? What if they just need another crack at it and they do make a deep semifinal or a final or something like that? And you can see whether the replication is there. But every single time, this is even before they signed Stair, like when you had, what was it, Mister on the team? Or Altex, sorry. You
Altex,
got
Celtics had
yeah.
them both. Yeah.
and that team also had like a pretty decent run at a tournament, and as soon as the reports came out, everybody's level started dipping again because they knew like, I mean, it doesn't really matter anyways. I'm on the chopping block. I'm gonna see you guys later anyways. But that's just gonna keep happening. And again, I think that this lineup is okay. I think they're fine. I think they can still do enough damage. Now, if you bring in Stown and Yabby, it's going to get very difficult to really figure out the roles. Stown had to have a lot of resources dumped into him on Heroic. Does Blame F really want to give up all of that space to over to Stown? Yabby will now have to go in a little bit more of a supportive role. Does he really like that after being a bit more of an aggressive rifle for Heroic? Like, there's so many options that you have to roll the dice for this roster that sure, on paper, it's like, wow, we're taking the best parts of Astralis, we're taking the best parts of Heroic, we're mixing them together, and we should win titles, right? It's like, it's not that easy. It's a huge risk to take this. So, personally, it's just a bummer to see Astralis just say, okay, 3 months are over, let's get in a new iteration. Instead of saying, let's give them another 3 months and let them see what they kind of cook up in that meantime, and see if they can, make a big final or something like that. It's just a bummer that the org just doesn't believe in the players they have in the here and now. They're always looking to scout the next lineup, and that next lineup is never everything that they were hoping it to be. Like, they're not lifting any titles.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agreed. It's a shame, but I also, in the other way, as much as I absolutely agree with you, Borup is doo-doo, so get him out. So
Oh, he is. Totally is.
he gotta
I
go.
agree.
But I really do like Stair. And weirdly enough, I kind of feel like a really good move would be Complexity picking up Stair. I genuinely really like him. I still think he can perform at elite level. I wouldn't want to see him drop into tier 2 because I think he's actually too good for tier 2. It's like, that's the only way I can kind of put it in my brain. But
Who'd you replace on Complexity for him then?
Yeah.
no, sorry, no. Come on, look, see what am I saying? Heroic. Sorry, what I meant to say is
Oh,
heroic.
okay.
No, sorry, yeah, not Complexity.
Okay.
Sorry, that it's getting late. Heroic. Sorry,
I agree though.
especially with heroic
That's
leading
fun.
players, it kind of feels like it could work. And also, there's a very strong way in which, like, if heroic are just like open about it and like essentially kind of smart about it, they could basically be like, well, we know you want 2 of our players, like we can't stop them going, but like basically like we can sweeten the deal here and then like basically negotiate so they get him on a very good price. So it ends up working in their favor. And then there is one less player to find. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like it kind of works. And then not that Danish talent's easy to find, especially at that level, but like I said, if they keep on a Zyphon, for example, Zyphon plus Stair, and then the rest of that team is actually not that bad. All things considered, it's not actually an awful team. I think it'll take a while to get going, but it feels like relatively competent. But then of course, Astralis, pardon me, become just like a super team. Like that does become like a super team. If that
one factor we've also glossed over a little bit with all this is the fact that we actually do get an opening game where dupreeh is playing against his former team with which he won a major, right? And obviously he was like, I wouldn't say it was necessarily a benching / removal that was welcomed by dupreeh. I think he probably disagreed with the choice.
I think he did.
And yeah, I think that's really cool if he can get some revenge on Vitality in that sense.
It would be cool if he could, to be fair. It would be cool. Should we run through, to finish off, just a few more random, few more of the bigger transfers, that have been kicking around. So we got, we'll start the rumors. We'll go over to NA to start things off. One rumor that I'm a big fan of, Skulls rumored to go to Liquid. He's left my goats pain, but he's heading in the direction of Liquid, apparently, is what the rumors say. I'm a big fan of it. I love the dude. Zevi and
we
Skulls are my
honestly
goats. I love them both.
we honestly could just talk about the proposed Liquid roster altogether. With the proposed
Yes, yeah.
roster, with the verbal agreements that have been given so far, contracts haven't been signed, but verbal agreements have been given from 3 different players: Skulls, Cadian, and Twists. So the
Yes.
roster would be Skulls, Cadian, Twists, Naf, and Yekindar off the IGLing role. So
Fair play.
you're getting rid of OC, you're getting rid of Patsy, and you're getting rid of Rainwaker. To me, you've shed the EU fraud allegations, and now you're going back to the promised land of the Americas RMR, which I think they would absolutely farm through.
Yeah,
Of course,
guaranteed.
bar complexity, I don't feel like they would have any competition. You make the organization satisfied in terms of repeating the majors again and potentially going out with a good seed as well. And you could potentially become the #1 team in the world. Like there is a very real, like with how influx all of these rosters are at the moment. If FaZe fall away and we don't get to see that core again, I'm gonna plant the flag and say that there's a real potential for this team to be a #1 team. You have, of course, one of the best IGLs in the game. You finally have Liquid under a competent opper for the first time in the organization's history, which is super exciting. You have you have a gamble in Skulls. If your gamble is Skulls,
It
that's
says a
super
lot.
exciting
Yeah,
because to me, I'm sold on this guy. I've already seen what he's given to Pain for so many months now,
I agree.
and he so desperately needed that call up to Furia. You know what? Liquid's gonna say you don't want him, we'll take him, and we'll prosper with him. It makes a lot of sense on his end. You have, of course, Twist coming back, where it's such a more complete player now that I think he just rounds out this roster so well. Naf has already been such a safe pair of hands. You get Yekindar back onto the just fragging duties. Sure, I don't necessarily know if he's gonna be 100%, but he doesn't have to be 100%. Especially if the other players do fire on all cylinders, Yekindar can be that kind of linchpin that's like, okay, a best of one here or there, he pops off for
Sure.
a map. That's all you need. And of course, Zeus being the rumored coach behind them to lead a younger player like Skulls, that Brazilian on Brazilian talent is super exciting. And of course, I think he was by and large the best coach that Liquid has ever had. When you think about the rise to prominence that Liquid had when they had Steel on the team, Brazilian Steel, mind you, and they became that second best team in the world behind Astralis for so long. To me, it feels like every single piece has been carefully manufactured, and we've gone from the biggest what the fuck roster to like, oh my god, holy shit, this is so exciting roster.
Yeah.
And I love the 180. That to me, I'm just so excited.
What if they got Queserato instead?
Yeah, I
Oh.
mean that would just lock it in, right?
I know,
We
right?
just had an
Why did he say
we had
no? Why did he say
It ju-
no?
it is the biggest like, what is wrong with you? Can you not see the possibility here?
Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes the rose tinted glasses of playing with a player like Fallen just clouds you, and you know what? Fair play, whatever.
Man, if Queserato's on that team, like as much as I love Skulls, man, if Queserato's on that team, there's no chance. Like I feel like right now I'm not fully sold on it being a top 1 team or like a top like 3 team at the moment, just because I want to look at the rest of the field. But I think it can be really highly potential. But if Queserato's on that team, then I'm all in. Like I'm under the copium. That would be so nuts. Fuck playing with Fury. You've been there 6 years and you've never won anything. Like it's done, dude. Like there's surely a point in his career where he's got to realize like, fuck, I should have left like 2 years ago. Or I should have left like a year ago or something. Like if I had gone at this point, I would have so many trophies under my belt. Even if they're like, trophies that like aren't the biggest deal for him or whatever, but like just having some sort of silverware, because he's just a completely empty cabinet, collecting nothing but like domestic lands, basically. Yeah, I think for me it would be sick, man, if he went. Obviously, he looks like he said no, so you hate to see it. You really do. What else do we have? Let's have a look. I can put it up here. I have the transfers. Let's filter it by top 30. Nikodos, sorry, not Nikodos. Roy to Preezy. I think it's fine. I think it's kind of his level.
I like it a lot, honestly.
I think it's his level. Aurora making some really good signings, bringing Hooch as a coach and Deco as the AWPer to replace Latic. banging signings, like incredible signings. You've got one of the best AWPers in tier 2 right now, and it has been one of the best for a long time. Like as good for a while until I think he's now elevated a little bit higher. But like he was like on par with Deco. They were like with Wonderful. They were like competing for being like kind of the best CIS AWPer for a while. Deco's sick. Obviously, I mean the only thing is he just obviously has some sort of attitude problem, which is very obvious on his streams. But then you've got just like one of the best coaches in the world, in my opinion, like generally speaking, in that Hooch. Like he just is like tried and tested. He keeps making teams good. You know, Entropic made them sick. One win was just nothing, made them really good, despite like who they had for a while as well. And I really think he can help out Aurora. And it's a win for me because Latte got benched. That's what you get
You'll
for
never
memeing
forget
me.
that.
That's what you get for memeing me at the RMR.
It all
Bastard.
comes back, man. Karma
Yeah.
is a cruel mistress, and it was all because of that RMR.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really all it was.
Yeah,
Well,
it has-
actually, in a
it
weird
has
way, it
funny
probably
words.
was. I feel like if that team had actually made it to the major like they should have, they probably would have had at least another year under them, like, you know, kind of until the next major.
Yeah.
Like, we've done it once before, we can do it again. But they went 2-0 and then ended up losing, right, and not making it. So I think for in a weird way, while it obviously wasn't down to the injury itself, like, the RMR actually was probably the most costly part about them needing to take a change, because they were like, oh, we're not actually major level, and we're putting so much money in, we should be. So I'm a fan. I think it's a good signing. We've already kind of spoken about Alex and Boomich already, and Mezzi coming through. Wonderful we've spoken about. Who else? Simple being benched, we kind of already slightly mentioned that. Shiro being benched, though, is quite interesting. Well, actually,
He
both
benched himself.
Yeah,
didn't he?
exactly. Yeah, Simple and Shiro, actually both of them kind of benching themselves in a way.
Crazy, isn't it? Two of the 3 best players in the world.
Yeah,
benching
literally.
themselves.
But really interesting because it kind of opens the speculation of where to now. Because obviously there's Falcons who is going to pick up someone they need an AWPer, whether it's Sunpyre or it's not, who knows. But the fact that they've now got, they were going to go for Sunpyre, but then there's the potential of either Simple or Shiro, and obviously, 9 times out of 10, nobody can really compete with Simple. With Na'Vi just because of the money, but Falcons can because they can compete with anybody. And then you got Shiro, who money is not competing with Cloud9 money wise, not a problem. It's just his English is probably the issue. How good does he speak English?
Get yourself on Duolingo, mate.
Exactly.
I think this is the perfect chance for him to
Who knows?
really step up on a different team and prove that he can do it in a non Cloud9 Gambit system. I think that's the biggest thing.
Where to? I think is basically the question. Like where did these two go? Like, does Simple eventually come back? If he does, what happens to Wonderful? Because like Wonderful feels like you can build around Wonderful. Shiro looks like isn't gonna come back. He was not vibing with the team. But then there's also a world that maybe they drop in the future, drop Hobbit, keep Boomich, bring back Shiro in. What's the thoughts?
Maybe.
I think the options are so many more for Simple, right? Because he already has the international offers. I think Shiro is in a really weird situation where I don't think that I don't know if he's completely thought this through, to be honest with you. If he's the one that has benched himself, I don't think he understands that he's got, like, if he doesn't want to pick up the Duolingo, as you said, and get the international rosters as an option, where does he go? Like, I don't really see another roster that I'm like, yeah, this is gonna, like, he's gonna start contending for titles on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not gonna go to Aurora. You're not. I'm sorry. I don't think. I don't think even that works either.
No,
You're not gonna go to Monty. You're not gonna go.
Yeah.
You're not gonna replace Art Frost on Spirit. I don't think they want to get rid of him. Like, I don't know. I just don't see a Russian team or like a CIS team that works for him. And the only other option is international. And I'm telling you, with the amount that this guy talks in his native tongue when he was on Cloud9, and that just completely goes out the window if he goes international, he's going to become a liability for a team.
Agreed.
So he's got a lot of work to do. like internally before he even decides to come back to the stage. The only option that makes sense to me is to come back to Cloud9, which
Same
I don't know
here,
why you
yeah.
would do.
Yeah, I think that's for me is like if Hobbit, as I said earlier, if like he, as Axel said to me, if Hobbit is still doing a lot of the IGLing because he understands the system, if that stops being the case and Boomich will do it full time, which we expect probably will be the case, because Boomich obviously did such great work with One Win once he took over from Nickelback. I think, unfortunately, it is weird to say, if Cloud9 do want to have a Dedi Orpa still, because I don't think it's tenable long term to have such a great rifler and Perfecto doing it.
Yeah.
I think Boomich picking it up has been hot and cold. I don't think he can. I don't think really he can IGL AWP. I don't think that's something that's possible for me. I could be proved wrong. But yeah, I think if they eventually do remove Hobbit because they see him as a piece that's not necessary and bring Shiro back to the fold, that's when it's incredibly exciting and an option. And it's crazy to think that might be the only option because I think Annie might be spot on with that. Because as I said Bet Boom, but Zorto isn't exactly shitting the bed right now, and that is a huge step down anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sad for him because I really like Shiro. Obviously, he is known for being quite passive, quite defensive, I guess, really. The aggression that we see from Shiro only comes when it really has to come. So maybe if he can reinvent himself in some way going into CS2, where you have to be more aggressive as an AWP and can't just hold angles. You have to be the one crouch peeking into these angles and taking the peaks. Yeah, I'm sad for him in the sense that he doesn't seem to have an identity in CS2 because he obviously hasn't played it much. Where's the third best player of the year of last year gonna go? Like it's a weird situation.
No, I agree. I feel like his options are limited. I really feel like for me, the only thing that kind of makes sense is that they do bench someone else, keep Boomich, and he goes back onto Cloud9. But I think you're right, Paladin. I really don't think he's thought this through. I feel like this adds to the conversation about him being quite immature because it feels like quite an immature decision. It's like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, the teams aren't going to flock for you because we don't even know if you can speak English. Like,
he can't.
Yeah,
like,
you just can't,
you've
right?
seen, like, every time they've given him like an interview opportunity, he either says no or he says I need a translator, or he gives you a one-word answer. Like, unless he's like hoodwinked everybody in the Counter-Strike scene, that like he just says that I don't know English. So, yeah, like that he doesn't know English or something, just so he can get out of interviews. He doesn't know it. Like, there's no way. He doesn't tweet in English either. He only tweets in, like, when he does, it's like very like broken up. And it's like usually it's in Russian.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 90% of the time it's in just Russian. So there's nothing pointing to me to believe that he's just gonna magically,
just
appear on a G2. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Happening.
I think it says a lot that like his Sydney was very poor by his standards. I mean, I'm just trying to. I'm going to quickly let me just control. I found it. So his Sydney, 6 maps. I think that is. 6 maps. He dropped a 0.96, which is just showing that he seems very out of sorts. Maybe he's out of sorts mentally, and that's why he decided to bench himself. We obviously don't know maybe internally what's exactly going on. Maybe that's a factor. But at the same time, I agree. I think it's he's put himself into a situation where on earth does he go to like? And as I said, crazy that we're saying this about a number 3 player in the world over the last couple of years rebuild his career. It's been barely any time at all, but we're talking about it as if he needs to rebuild his career. Weirdly, it's kind of true. He does need to rebuild a career and find where his next home is. Because if he doesn't know English, as you say, the options are incredibly limited. And yeah, I think the Sydney performance kind of says it all about his current mental standpoint and where he feels like he perhaps is at the moment, individually as well.
I agreed. I think he's chalked. I think he is chalked. We'll see. That more or less is the bulk of them, unless I'm missing any. I don't think I am. Yeah, I think it's more or less the bulk of the
Other
big
than
ones.
like, did we say Alex? We very quickly spoke about Alex Denep, didn't we? Like,
a little bit earlier. Yeah. Just like it should be decent. One having scrolled through this one side note, one that I did find funny. X has back to Vitality, obviously great, good. Losing Sonic.
Coach of the year.
Coach of the year.
Coach of the year.
2 games for TSM, and he lost both of them. Okay, alrighty. Just shows you all those awards are fucking bullshit. Don't believe them. They're all rigged.
Unless you win.
Unless you win, of course, then they're not rigged. But
I think Simple was like nominated for like Gamer of the Year or whatever in 2019, which is like a second or third best year of his entire career, and he didn't win.
Yeah, he lost to Booga.
Yeah, he lost to a Fortnite gamer.
A Fortnite kid, yeah. A Fortnite kid who won less prize pool than he won all year that year as well, by the way.
Yeah, and you know what? That guy, you know where he is now? Yeah, he's selling stuff at like our like Walmart. He's selling like merch at our Walmart for like $5 because that's all the contract that he got. So
making a bag though.
Maybe. No, he's probably not. He's probably not. And for that reason, I'm not salty about it. Yeah. I'm sure Simple isn't salty about it, but that whole Game Awards business is nonsense when it comes to esports. It's
also, I'm like, I don't really care about anything outside of CS, right? I don't really watch any other esports out of CS. I'll admit it. A bit of FIFA here and there, but this is like, obviously very off topic for this thing, but one of the Val coaches, guy who coached for Fnatic called Mini, won like 2 out of 4 like big tournaments and didn't get nominated. But then Potter won 1 and got nominated, which kind of doesn't make sense. Obviously, it was a very good run of EG, but like, surely the winningest coach is the best one. You know what I mean? I don't really know. It's all kind of rigged. Potter's sick though. I think Potter probably actually will end up winning it because that run of EG was sick. But how Xtaz is even in there, I have no idea. Even he tweeted and was like, "Why am I here?
Yeah,
like,
remove me.
Yeah, remove me. Like, why am I here?" He literally coached 3 games this year, so they're all rigged. But go and vote for all the CS talent like Maui, Scrawny, Launders, Maniac, Freya, I'm pretty sure as well.
That's for the esports awards, right?
Oh, they're all right. This one seems like nuts. The esports awards, they seem fine. They're actually more. I think they do their research. Whatever this awards is bad.
Once we get nominated, they're definitely fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not showing up. But only awards I'm showing up for is HLTV awards. Give Caster awards. Do it. Best
cough.
Yeah,
you won't do it.
We might be about to pull up in a suit. That's all I'm saying.
I got one freshly made. But, lads, I think that more or less will sum things up. Why don't we finish things off with what we're up to for the next, I don't know, few weeks to a month. Maybe I might do one just before Blastful finals. I reckon it's probably the next time we'll do one. Maybe like tail end of the year, like late December. So
I mean World Finals,
yeah. What are we doing for the next month and a half ish?
You know what? I will say it here on video because we barely have any viewers. So if you're viewing this, you get exclusive news that I will be on the desk for Atlanta. So
my God,
I'm super excited to work that. Mostly North American crew, so that's gonna be super exciting. Fragacago is in the first weekend of December. Get to see everybody. It's Fragadelphia, but it's happening in Chicago. It's happening in Chicago, so they call it Fragacago.
Okay, I'm so baffled for a second there.
Yeah, so that's super exciting. Get to see all my NA boys and to be a part of a Fragadelphia in some form or fashion for the first time is super exciting. Yeah, I think other than that, things look just really exciting at the tail end. I think I'm gonna have a little bit of a holiday after Atlanta. Go to Austria and spend Christmas there, which is super exciting. Yeah,
Austria. To Austria. That's sick.
Why is that like the last country I expected you to say?
I was trying to look for places that have like really fun Christmas time stuff, and Germany, Austria kind of came up a bunch. Okay. Norway came up a bunch. But Norway is super dark at this time of the year, so
they have no daylight. It's nighttime, like 24 hours. It's kind of wild.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to Austria. Fuck it.
I respect it. That's sick. Are you going with your family or on your own or?
I'm going alone. It's my first ever solo trip internationally. So,
dude, that is baller. I respect that. I've never done that. I respect that.
Hell yeah.
But we'll see how that goes. You'll stay tuned to the Twitter because I will be posting photos. But yeah.
How long are you going for?
A couple of days. So like Atlanta ends on the 17th, and I'll be in Austria till like the 21st, 22nd ish.
So you're going straight from?
so-
You're not going straight from. Are you going straight from Stockholm to Austria?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh damn!
That
Goodness
is
me!
Yeah,
so
You're gonna
sick.
be you're gonna be fucking exhausted by the end of this.
I
But
will. Yeah.
respect.
This next month is I'm just taking trips everywhere because
That's sick, dude.
I have time before grad school starts in like next fall. So why not just see the world? Why not?
Yeah.
I respect it. I really did. That's sick, man. That's sick. Trav, what you got for us? What you got coming up?
Well, me and Paladin are going to be doing the and me and you are going to be doing the Bet Boom Dacia qualifiers. Me and Paladin tomorrow, then me and Neo for the rest of it. I think that's going to be quite fun because there's a lot of good teams involved with that. Of course, we just spoke about it a little bit. The main event, of course, has VP Astralis, Cloud9, Bet Boom, Fury, and Heroic. Got 2 spots for it, and we're figuring out 9 versus Spirit, as of course Fnatic pulled out because they've only got 3 bloody players. And IP versus MLBR tomorrow as well, which should be a lot of fun. And the playoffs should be pretty stacked. We've already got a few teams involved in that. And the big news for me is the fact that I'm doing ASL Challenger Yongshiping, which is only my second in-person studio gig. So I'm very happy to be doing that, casting alongside Hayes, the GOAT. Lots of South African representation with him and Tech Girl in that event, which is great for the South African scene because it's a scene that's very much overlooked, I feel like, in terms of players these days. But when it comes to talent, we've got some great people. So yeah, looking forward to meeting them all again. Can't wait for that. So exciting, going to Stockholm for that. Unfortunately, not in person at the event, but still in the same country as it. Maybe one day we'll get that in person. In the crowd experience. I'm sure we will. I'm sure we all will one day. Absolutely can't wait for that. I'm so excited. I'm literally flying in today's the 16th, so I'm flying in a week, exactly a week.
Oh,
so
exciting.
Sick. That is sick. It's the
I'll be trying to watch Blast. That's the only thing I'm upset about is that obviously everyone's gonna be watching Blast, and no one's gonna be watching Yongshiping. I hope the few niche fans of maybe tier 1.5 CS will be Yongshiping enjoyers. At least try and tune in for some of those matches as well, because I'm sure even all of us who will be working the event will be watching Blast as well. So either way, I can't wait. And the end of the year has been really great for me with Thunderpick and this and the Bet Boom Koala. Honestly, I'm really grateful because I've had compared to some of you guys, especially Neo with you doing the RMRs and stuff. In general, I've actually had quite a quiet year. So yeah, Neo's been smashing it, that's for sure, and especially for the in-person gigs. I have had pretty quiet, other than a few good qualifiers up until now. Finally got a few good events, so yeah, I'm really grateful for those opportunities, and I love this shit. I love this shit.
Love to see it.
Love this shit.
I'll finish off. Got Atlanta quals tomorrow, but technically today. Today, 16th, 17th. Should be pretty fun for EU.
Oh yeah, I've got to wake up at 6:30 to do some Asia quals. Yeah.
That's
gonna be fun.
I got Atlanta should be fun. Obviously got Bet Boom Dacia quals for a little bit. I'm doing Elisa Espo, but online from studios. Me and Ted doing that. I've got a couple of days on that, and then all I've got for the rest of the year is Asia ECL playoffs. So all of playoffs, which should be fun, and potentially one gig just after, but it depends on timing. So I might be doing it, but we'll see. We'll keep that one on wraps until I am doing it or I'm not doing it. You weren't here. And then I'm going away for Christmas as well. I'm heading to Dubai for 3 weeks. So
nice.
So I'm in Dubai from the 17th until the 4th, I think, something like that. So I'm there for a good chunk, which should be fun. Basically, Bet Boom Dacia should hire me, and then they don't have to pay for my flight back because I'm actually going to stay there anyway. So why not? But no, yeah. So then we kickstart. I've now moved house, so for me, I'm probably gonna try and crank out some content over the next few weeks to a month before I go to Dubai, and then probably try and pre-record as much as I can before going to Dubai, and then I can just drip feed it out for the next few weeks while I'm away before it all kickstarts into 2024, which who knows what's gonna happen. No one knows what happens in this industry. You have literally no way of predicting anything unless you're under contract, and That's only for
I
tier 1
think
people, and we're
All,
not.
all I'm saying, I think we're on the right path. I really think we are.
We're trying.
So.
Well, all 3 of 2.5 Talent represented at ESL Challengers this year. We every single ESL Challenger event this year had a 2.5 Talent member present. So that's all that matters.
Maybe we should change the name to not 2.5. We should rebrand
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like Big Talent, Big Little Talent or something like Little Big Planet, like the video game. It should be called Little Big Talent.
Little
Actually,
Big
that's
Talent.
really good. I've just come up with a great idea. Just call us Little Big Talent because
I
I'm
like
little
it.
and you're big. We should do it. Let's rebrand. Let's do it
He's
right
got it.
now.
He's fucking got it. Fucking got it. That will summarize things though. So we're gonna call it there. Thank you everyone for watching once again. Saw a bunch of people in chat. So shout out like Luxor, Speed Laps, Benche, and a few others who swung by as well. I think I saw Cole swing in as well for a little bit. So thank you everybody who stopped by. It's been a pleasure. If obviously you're watching on Twitch, this is going to go on YouTube as well, probably tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube, go check out the Twitch. Go check out everyone's links. You can see their ads on screen right now. Paladins is wrong. It's Paladin CS2, not that Paladin anymore.
Thank you.
Can we change
Thank
it?
you.
Who knows? Will we change
No.
it?
Ronnie,
Don't do it.
Ronnie, hello, please.
Will we change it? Who knows? But the links are in the description below. Cheers, everybody. It's been a pleasure. We will see you all soon. Take care.